I've spent over 100 hours debugging AI generated code. 100 hours gone. But here's what kills me. One mental shift and two simple rules would have cut that down by 80%. Not fancy prompting techniques, not new models, just two simple ways of managing context that I discovered through burning hours when working on a client project recently. And the mental shift is this: when AI writes bad code, don't fix that code immediately. Instead, ask yourself, what caused the AI to write the bad code in the first place? Let me show you how these two rules work in practice. All right, so the first thing is the why. Why would you want to undergo this mental shift? Well, it's really the compounding effect. So if you know how to compound context when building a project, you're going to increase your ability to effectively build faster. So these two charts kind of depict this. So this left-hand side is traditional development with AI, where oftentimes you're resetting context every single session, which is fine, and you should do that, but you're not carrying forward the lessons learned. And by doing that, the progress is linear when it comes to the capability and the time it takes you to build more complex applications. Now, if you take on the 10x engineering mindset and you become a true quote unquote AI engineer, you're taking that context and you're building it into the scaffolding of the project. And the progress that you have and the capability is somewhat exponential because the lessons that you learned persist for future AIs to refer to. You're encoding a lot of that into rules that it refers to as well. And the capability to get a lot faster. And the most important thing is that as you build on an existing project, it should get easier to build more and more complex features. And I'm not sure about you, but for me, that's a very compelling reason to adopt this mentality. So, how does this actually kind of work? So, this is the mental shift that I was mentioning. The old way is basically you're fixing broken code immediately after the AI writes it, and you're not reverting back and asking yourself what really caused the AI to write it in the wrong way in the first place. And that all comes down to context. And the best way I can think about this is the quote around, I think Elon Musk mentioned this, is you want to build the factory, not the machine or the widget that the factory produces. And the factory in this case is going to be the context that we feed the AI over and over to improve its ability to achieve more complex tasks. Now, our first rule here is going to be long-term context, or I would say better yet, persistent context across more complex tasks. So we'll do P for persistent. And when you often build an application with AI, there's a few different documents you're likely going to have. So you're going to have a specification, you're going to have a blueprint, and you're likely going to have a roadmap or something along these three. So the specification is going to cover what you're building, the blueprint covers how you're going to build it, and the roadmap is your to-do list. Now, oftentimes, we'll focus on this most of the time with our AI, and this to-do list is pretty big because we're building an entire application with the AI. And we want to incrementally work through each one of these to-dos with the AI. Every time we move from one sub to-do to the next, we're going to refresh the context to ensure that we're not necessarily bloating it. But the issue here is sometimes when you're building more complex applications, you may run into a subtask here, say this one here, that is too big for the AI to achieve in one go, or at least in one conversation. Now, in this case, you may ask, how do you know if that's true? Trial and error. And that's something I've done many times. Or say I'm building this subtask here. I've tried many times. So let's say I've tried 5 or 6 times to build this specific feature for the application, and I found over and over the AI is unable to achieve it, irrelevant of how I changed the prompt and how I changed the to do. When this happens, you need to stop, take a second, and then on the last iteration of when you tried this, because you're going to refresh the context every time, you're going to ask the AI to summarize what it tried to do, the associated errors it ran into, and the issues with the complexities. Once it summarizes this into a few paragraphs, you're going to feed this into another AI over here, and that AI is going to be probably Opus 4.1 or one of the more smarter models, and smarter, more intelligent. And when you feed this into the AI, you're going to ask it to create a sub to do task. So basically, create another to do list associated to building this macro feature. So it's going to create a smaller list of to dos to achieve creating this feature because it's too big to do in one go. And it's going to take into the context of what we've tried and the errors we've run into when creating this plan so we can mitigate and avoid going to that in the future. And the interesting thing about this list is it's not just a to-do list, but we're also going to bake in some lessons learned as well based off of this, what I've mentioned previously, but also when we build this, we may run into lessons as well, and we'll ask the AI to then feed this back into the to-dos, leaving maybe one or two sentences, not being too verbose when they add it. So the future AI that references the to-dos, they can see what's happened in the past and avoid those same errors when building that same feature. So I've talked about this in the context of building features, hence this point here, but you can also do this for complex and gnarly bugs. When you're trying to fix them, you may need to take multiple steps to do so. And at the end, when you're finished with this, you can delete this document and go back to your macro to-dos. That's the first rule, long-term or persistent context. I want to give you an example of how that manifests. Hello there. This video is brought to you by me. So two things. One is below is a link to a free 30-day AI Insight series where you get 30 insights in your inbox of how you can apply AI to your business and your work, completely free. Second thing, if you need assistance implementing AI into your company, There's another link down below to show the different offerings we have for that to see if there's a good fit. That being said, let's get back into the video. So here's an example of a recent project I was working on where I had a series of different websites I had to scrape. They're all pretty complex. And I was using browser-based to do the scraping. The technicalities are kind of irrelevant. But the point here is when doing this, the browser kept on hanging up. So there's a series of sessions that were kicked off, and those sessions would hang and not close, which cost me money and cost time. And I tried probably 7 or 8 times to fix this with an AI in the existing conversation. Every single time, it would try a different approach, and every single time, it wouldn't achieve it. So I went through the same exact process that I mentioned to you previously. I passed off the lessons learned and the things we've tried to do into Opus, had it create me a detailed markdown file of a subtask of to-dos to basically fix this gnarly bug. Once we've achieved this, actually before we achieve it, we went to Sonnet and we executed this inside of Cursor with Sonnet. After we've gone through this iteration of process for this markdown file, we then deleted it and moved on to the next bigger to-do. So this is a general example I wanted to share of how you can apply this persistence. In the next rule, and I think this will be a lot of people should definitely use this and apply it, is creating rules over time instead of all up front. Because oftentimes what I see people do is they'll adopt rules that other people have shared on GitHub and other places in Twitter. And that's nice, but it's too bloated and it's not relevant to your specific project. I recommend starting with an empty rule set and then building on top of that incrementally as you go through building your project so you can compound the context so it gets easier to build over time. And the way you'll do this is trial and error again. So you'll run into some errors and the AI will have a reoccurring mistake it keeps making. Once you finally had the AI fix that mistake that it kept on making, you want to solidify this and make it concrete. So once you fixed it, you're then going to go to a rule, and you're going to create a rule either in Claude.md if you're using Claude Code, or a .cursor rule file if you're using Cursor, whatever system you're using. There's some form of rules you can create. When you create this rule, you're going to have the AI basically write the rule for you. Once it's written it, there's a high likelihood that when you run into this mistake again or this specific issue again, the AI will not make that mistake because it has this rule to reference and it's learning from its previous lessons and its previous self in the past. And there's a lot of different examples I could give here. I'm just going to give 3 and I'll quickly run through these. So the first one here is a Gemini SDK issue. So I probably wasted around 3 hours messing with this issue where I was trying to integrate a series of Gemini file APIs and a bunch of other things associated to their models into the system. And when doing this, I realized about 3 hours in, after doing 20 different conversations, that the AI was coding against the outdated version of this SDK. And once I realized it was doing that, I updated it with the right documentation. I gave it the right information. After that, it immediately fixed the issue because it knew it was in the right version and it was coding to the wrong endpoints, etc. Once I did this, I solidified this into a rule. So in the future, anytime the AI references the code that's talking to this SDK, it knows to check the documentation first before it codes anything. That's the first example. Our next example is models. So this happens almost all of the time. No matter what system or application you're building, if AI is involved in that, there's a high likelihood this is going to happen to you. So listen closely. With any AI, this line here, we can say this is time. And over time, when you train an AI, there's eventual cutoff point. And after this cutoff point, there's a lot of stuff that happens that might be relevant for your AI to know. In this case, it was the model naming. So say my model was cut off here. And at this point in time, only 1.5 Gemini was available in the world. So that's what's in its knowledge base. But I wanted to use the new model 2.5. So what happened in this case is the AI started implementing different types of references to the Gemini 1.5 model when I wanted it to be referencing 2.5. So after I realized this, we had to fix all the references throughout the entirety of the code base. And then we solidified this as a rule inside the code base saying that any time that you run into a Gemini model reference, you need to always use 2.5 Flash or Pro, depending on the context of what you're building. That was our second. And our third is using tools. So this is, again, something that a lot of you will run into. I'm not genuinely a fan of MCP. There's maybe 1 or 2 use cases where I think it's relevant, but the rest of the time I think CLI tools will do most of what you need. And I usually use the CLI tools for a lot of things, and that's what I was using for this case with Supabase. So I had a database. I was trying to have the AI update and change in different ways. And it kept on running into issues because it didn't know how to use the CLI effectively. And it also was trying to create local instances and all this rubbish. But when I was doing this, I was like, all right, well, we're running into issues. So I fed it documentation. It didn't have creds, so I had to feed it the creds. And finally, after probably 6 or 7 iterations, it was able to achieve the task I wanted it to do. But I realized after we set this up, I needed to persist it. So I created a rule with statements and specific items around the usage of the tool, as well as a path to the credentials so it could then utilize the databases effectively. And again, all of this stuff here, all of these rules I created are all written by AI. It just references the lessons learned from the previous conversation and solidifies it into a rule based off of how to create rules in that specific tool I'm using. So those are some painful lessons that I learned that you shouldn't have to learn if you follow this process correctly. or at least you can mitigate the pain that's endured during that process. And I think this slide sums up the statement there, the quote that I wanted to refer to earlier, which is the factory is the machine that builds the machine. So what people do oftentimes, especially traditional developers, as soon as the AI writes bad code, they immediately try to fix that code and they ignored why it happened. But the best AI engineers that I know today, the 10x AI engineers that have compounding effects when they build applications, is they don't go straight to the code. They go straight to the context that caused the bad code to occur. They ask themselves, what did I give this AI that made it go in the wrong direction? How do I fix that going forward? And they consistently over time keep improving the context. And if you take this mental shift in your head and you really apply these rules effectively, you'll be able to build applications much faster and at an increasing rate as you build the same more complex systems and applications. So, long story longish, remember, fix the context, not the code. And that's it. So if you enjoyed this, share it with your friends. And as I mentioned previously, below is a free link to the 30-day AI Insight series, where you get 30 insights in your inbox of how you can apply AI to your business and your work. Also, while you're down there, if you would like to work with me, there's different offerings to see if there's a good fit. With that being said, there's probably a video around here that the YouTube gods think that you'll like, so you should check that out next.